Andy, thanks for having me here today. First of all, just tell us about your new business venture and why you've decided to take this route.
Well, I mean, it started over 4 years ago now. I was always into property throughout my career. It started when I was my time at Rangers. I started to get into it, and then it was actually when I was down at Preston that I had a lot of spare time. I wasn't in the team. I was injured, and I met a builder, and I started getting into, basically became addicted to homes under the hammer. Loved the before and afters doing up property, so that's how I got into property properly. And then when I moved back up to Glasgow, I found myself part-time at Stirling Albion in Dumbarton, so I needed to get a real job, and started working for a letting agency in the city centre.
So was it almost by accident then that you fell into it?
I think I always had an interest and a passion, and at the end of the day I think you should always try and do something that doesn't really feel like work, and that is how it feels at times, whereas football was starting to feel like not much fun, and I wasn't enjoying it very much with the injuries and uncertainty. Property gave me an opportunity just to go in and do a proper day's work. So loved that, and then I met my now business partner for this place, and that was over 4 years ago. We've always just done effectively a back office, and now we felt like it was the time to get a high street frontage and try and build in this area and try and build the sales side of things.
Is it important for you, do you think, for players to have that mindset of what's going to happen after football?
I feel really strongly about it. I think I think we're getting better, but we're so far behind the likes of the American system, where you get a proper education and you have to pass your exams in order to play at the weekend almost. And I think we're so far away from that in Scotland, certainly. Definitely in my time, college was a bit of a joke, if I'm truthful. The courses that we were doing while we were at college were just a tick box exercise to say you were doing it, and there was no real forward planning to having the backup, which, to be honest, you look at the figures, it's like 95%, 96% maybe of academy players are going to need that backup. So it's bizarre to me that people aren't doing it and doing more of it. I think trying to find something that you're interested in and just plugging away at it. You have a lot of spare time obviously in football, and without doubt they should be doing something. I was, to come back to what you said, probably a little bit lucky that I did just find something that I loved.
And just talk to you a little bit about Rangers then. New ownership, new manager. Is this a whole new side of the team that we'll see this season, do you think?
Yeah, we've been down this road before, haven't we? We've had those feelings a number of times in the last 10 years or so. I'm positive about it, and I think it's going to be maybe a very different style of play that we've seen. I think Russel Martin's obviously proven himself down in England. He knows a little bit about the club, he understands it. I think that's massive. I was always really keen for someone who knew what they're getting themselves in for, and he seemed like he stuck his hand up from very early on and made it very clear he wanted the job, and that's important. So I think he's got a job in his hands, certainly. Hopefully he's backed by the board and there's some money comes in, and we can start the season positively.
Is that the number one thing that fans need to see going forward, is that the pressure is on the board and the manager? They need to see success, they need to start winning games? Definitely,
the club's built on a winning mentality, on winning games, and anything less than winning isn't acceptable. And as I say, I think the manager understands that, and that's really, really important. We've got to hope that the support is there for him to go and build a squad, because I think there probably will be, and there probably should be, a lot of change happening in the forthcoming weeks. We've had the European draw now as well, so they've now got something to focus on and think about. So I'd imagine, to be honest, we do quite a lot of work with the club, and we try and help players and staff getting in. So I'm hopeful that my phone's going to be ringing a few times in the next couple of weeks with new players coming in and trying to find them places to live.
And the reports suggest that Cyril Dessers will probably be moving on from the club. As a forward player yourself, do you find that there's a little bit extra pressure on that position, especially at a club like Rangers?
Definitely, that's why generally strikers are paid the big money. They've got to do the hard job and put it in the back of the net. I think this and Cyril Dessers divided opinion, including myself. One week I thought he was not right for us, and the next week I thought he was. And his stats stood, they were pretty strong, and you can't really argue with that. He's going to leave a big hole in the team now, and we need to find someone. And I think it probably has to come from out with the squad right now, who can prove that they can score over 20 goals every season, because you'll find it very difficult to win leagues if you don't have at least one striker who can go and do that for you.
A problem at the end of last season was that the team were leaking a lot of goals. Is that an area that you feel they need to strengthen in this window?
Certainly, both ends of the pitch clearly are very, very important. I think the spine of the team, when you look back at maybe my time at the club, we had such a strong core of Scottish, British, whatever players, and I think that's the answer. Truthfully, that's how I feel anyway, is that you have to have the Davy Weirs, the Stephen Davises, the Kevin Thompson's, players like that who knew the club, knew what it was all about, and were very, very consistent performers. And from a back four point of view, we've had an awful lot of rotation in the last few years, and that's not a good thing, obviously. Back fours need time and games together to get used to each other and almost be one or two steps ahead of the next your teammates' next move type thing, and that takes time, and that's a relationship that needs to grow. So the sooner we can get a steady back four in there, I'm all for that.
Do you feel they're lacking that experience as you spoke about there, those players who have been there, done it previously? They need that in that spine of the team?
Absolutely. You look at last season, Nico Raskin was probably the outstanding performer, and he's a very young, exceptionally talented player, but he hasn't been across the course enough times to really know how to drag his teammates through games. But as I say, back then, in that time, and that's the only time I can really speak about we had not just one of those, we had probably 6 or 7 of those who would drag you through a game. Kenny Miller, Chris Boyd, players who were proven professionals, proven winners. We need a core of proven winners in there, and I don't think we have that. We don't have that right now because there hasn't been enough silverware, obviously, at the club. So where you go and find that, I don't really know, and that's up to the manager and the backroom staff to try and source those players and build a squad.
And finally then, Panathinaikos, Rangers will face in the first qualifying round. How much of a big challenge is that? What are you expecting to see? Yeah,
I think it'll be warm. I think it'll be a very tough away fixture. Probably is the toughest of the teams that they could have had, I would suggest. But European football has been really, really kind to Rangers. I've loved it over the last few years. It's been so special having those nights at Ibrox again. So I really hope we can get through it. But it's going to be a very, very tough task, I think. And to be honest, for Russel Martin, he's relatively, as far as I'm aware, relatively inexperienced in Europe as well. And of the previous managers that we've had, the one thing they have been able to do is really perform in Europe. So due to the certain kind of brand of football that Rangers were playing at the time, it suited European football. So whether Russel Martin can adapt his style to try and fit that, it's going to be really interesting to see.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Andy. That's